Mariah Kaylin, and welcome to the Gray Area Podcast, where we talk about all things black and white, but especially the gray. Thank you so much to everyone who has tuned in so far, every subscriber, every like, every comment, every share, every repost. I don't take it lightly. I really, really greatly appreciate the support embarking on this new journey that I'm on. It's been fun. It's something new for me. It's out of my comfort zone. I'm used to talking, but in not so out there spaces, more so to my clients, to my friends, more so behind scenes. So this is something that I don't take lightly, getting the support. I also don't take lightly being able to produce, the vision that I have, that I feel like God placed on my heart to fulfill. And I just thank you all for the support. I thank you for those who will come along later. I'm very, very grateful. I do not take it lightly. And now we are live on Apple Podcasts. I'm so happy. I believe we're on Spotify as well. I'm not a Spotify girly, so I have to double check that. That's my fault. But I do believe that we are on Spotify as well, and a couple other sites. I believe iHeartRadio is one. And I'm just looking forward to how this can go. I'm looking forward to new listeners. I'm looking forward to returning listeners, even people who watch the YouTube videos. Whatever works best for you, I greatly appreciate your support. Now, let's talk about 2024 goals. How do you feel like you're doing on your 2024 goals? How do you feel like you're doing on your New Year resolutions? I was just thinking like, I don't know. I don't know how I'm doing. I really don't know how I'm doing with that. 2024, it came in with a bang. I thought it would be different. I really did. Like the first couple of days of 2024, I was like, yeah, this is going to be a roller coaster ride. And it has been. I wouldn't say maybe my 2024 goals, a lot of them actually, now that I think about it, I've worked on a lot of them. So I would say like progress wise, I've accomplished a lot more. I launched my podcast. I moved forward with moving into the real estate journey that I'm on as far as becoming a realtor. I'm still a homeowner, having an Airbnb. Sometimes you just have to think back on what the Lord has done, and he's still doing it. I think even outside of thinking of the exact things on my list or my goals for 2024, I would like to think that I'm exceeding them. I would like to think that I've had some setbacks, but I'm proud of the progress that I've made and that I'm making. I think going into this year, the first couple months I had high expectations, which I think is very good to have. But I also think that I have developed, learning how to give myself grace and also learning how to just be in the moment. Like, I can always work towards a goal. What happens when I'm just in the moment enjoying, what's currently happening? Not something that I want to happen, something in the future. Like, I really do look forward to a lot of my goals being accomplished, but I've been in a transitional period where I've had to really sit and say, I'm enjoying it. I closed my suite in February. I started working for, a corporation in February, at the end of February. So many changes. Like, I don't think if you told me I was going to be in this position that I would believe you if you told me maybe last year even. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the humbling experiences that I've had. And that was definitely closing my suite, all the things. So I think as far as my goals, I think I'm exceeding them. I think I've been working on things that I didn't know that I needed to work on. A lot of things were brought to my attention for myself through, prayer or listening to sermons from my bishop, my first lady, guest speakers. even clips that from people I follow on Instagram who I feel like are trusted pastors and disciples of God. I feel like they have been lining up right with what I need. And I think that helps. That last year I switched over my Instagram profile to my other one. So I was able to create the algorithm that I wanted. So I have a lot of like spiritual conversations on my timeline, my explore page. So that does help. So I would say for my goals, I think I'm doing pretty well. I think that they're on the right track. I'm not mad at it. I'll be 27 this year. I've accomplished a lot. I've accomplished a lot to be 26. So I'm proud of me. How do you think your goals are doing? How do you think your progress has been so far for 2024? Are you happy with it? Do you think you could do better? Is there some things you're just getting off your list that don't matter to you? How are you feeling today about your goals that you set maybe last year, the beginning of this year, maybe a couple months into this year? And I also started it's a challenge where you write something positive weekly about something that happened during the week. I've been on a roll. I haven't missed a week. Even like there were times where I missed like 3 weeks, but I caught up. Like I went and looked at my calendar and was like, oh yeah, that did happen. So that has been nice. I can't wait to look at the end of the year, or I think I'll look in like on January 1st, but I can't wait to look back and see like, wow, I really had a lot to be grateful for last year. I really have a lot to keep being grateful for, in 2025. So I'm excited to read all of those things at the end of the year, when the year finishes out, when the new year rolls over. That is something that I've stayed true and consistent with. So I'm happy about it. So if you follow me on social media on Instagram or Facebook, Monday through Friday, I do take what you need in my story. So I would like to implement that in the podcast as well too. I do usually do the check-ins, but this is pretty much the same. I want to know how you're doing. I want you all to let me know in the comments. I want you to comment on the videos if you're watching. I want you to go to my Instagram and let me know in the clips that I post. If you're listening on the Apple Podcast, let me know your thoughts to any of the questions that I ask on the podcast. I really would love to hear from you. And you never know, maybe one of your questions or comments will end up on the podcast. I would love to be able to showcase what the viewers and listeners want to talk about and hear. So I feel like, for me today, take what do I need today? If I had to take something that I needed today, I would say I'm taking back my joy. I'm taking back my peace. I feel like I've experienced so much joy, and I'm keeping my joy, and I'm grateful for it. But I want to keep it. So I want to take that. And of course, it's Monday. So Mondays always start out a new week. And some people don't like Mondays. I like Mondays because I personally don't work on Mondays, but I also like them because they get to set the tone for how the week is going to go. So that is why I like to do take what you need Monday through Friday. Those are usually everyone's working days. That's most of my working days. So for me, I would say I'm taking joy. I'm taking peace. I'm receiving deliverance. I'm walking in deliverance. There's a lot of things that I've noticed in my walk with Christ that I need to face. Although I know I need to face them, I don't think I'm ready to face it just yet. And that's just me being 100% honest. I don't think I'm ready to let go of that part of the comfort zone. There's comfort parts that I've let go, but there's some areas where I'm just not ready to face. I'm not ready to let go. And I'm not saying that in a sense of, I don't know. I'm not saying that in a sense of not knowing who God is in that area of my life, but I'm saying that in a sense of just being honest. I'm just being honest. There are some things like we sometimes force ourselves to let go of, but we're still dealing with like the residue of it because we weren't ever really ready to let go of it. And sometimes I feel like we can't truly walk into what God has for us, because we still have this lingering stench. And I'm not saying that you should always wait until you're ready to let go of something. This is just my opinion. This really isn't even my opinion. This is just for me personally. So I'm receiving deliverance. I'm walking in deliverance, and I'm going to keep claiming these things. I'm going to keep taking these things and taking what I need until my posture matches. That's how I am going about this. And that's just being honest. Going into 27, I want to do it God's way, and I want to do it the honest way. I want to be honest with myself, because if I'm going to be honest with God, I need to be honest with myself as well. And I hope and I pray that through my vulnerability that you can also be honest with yourself too. There are things that God wants to take from us and do for us, but we have to be willing to let it go. And if you aren't willing to let it go, you have to be honest about that, and you have to pray about it. I'm not just saying I don't want to let it go and I'm not seeking him about it. I am seeking him about it. I'm praying. I went on a fast, and it's just a process. This is my gray area currently. And maybe at the right time I will share what that thing is, but I'm not ready to share it. I'm not ready to share it. So yeah, that's just how that goes. So I would say, yeah, I'm taking peace, joy. I'm walking in deliverance. I'm receiving that, I'm going to walk a path of righteousness. I'm going to have a healthy marriage. I'm going to experience things that aren't normal for my upbringing, the things that I've experienced in life. I'm decreeing and declaring that everything that I want, that God desires for me to have, I will have, and it won't be complicated. There's no catch to it. There's no, secret code to unlock. It's just purely because God wants me to have it. He wants to gift it to me. So I'm trusting and believing that no matter what choice I decide to make, God is still going to get the glory out of it. I want God to get the glory out of my life, period. I don't care, good or bad. If he gets the glory, that's the story. If he gets the glory, that's what I mainly care about. And it's not, I don't want you all to see this and think that I'm encouraging you to do anything but do it God's way. I just want you to know that you have to be honest and walk in your truth and go to God about it. Go take it to Jesus. Take it to Jesus. I said that in my other episode. My bishop preached about that. Take it to Jesus. I'm here to help and be with you as you walk through your gray area, as you're here to walk with me through mine. So I'm praying with you and for you as I'm praying for myself and with myself. So today I wanted to talk about something that really changed the trajectory of my life and who I am today, that made me who I am today. It really molded me into something that I wasn't expecting. And it's not necessarily bad, but it kind of woke me up to be like, what is going on? What am I doing? And that happened April 20th, 2019. My life changed for, I would like to say today, the better. At the time, it was getting rocky, but April 20th, 2019, I was with my now ex. We were together for like 3 or 4 years. And going into April 20th, so April 19th, going into April 20th, I'm like, I think we should get a test, a pregnancy test. Something's not feeling right. Something's different. I can't explain it, but something's different. He's like, okay, let's get a test. And that's when I found out that I was pregnant. I found out I was pregnant April 20th. I think I went to my best friend's graduation party with her sister. I was pregnant there. And I felt so bad because I did not tell my best friends. I kept it to myself. I think I was ashamed. I was embarrassed. But that's not a reason to keep that from them. I was just away from them. I was living an hour 30 away, living my own life and in this world of just like a haze, really. But I went to her graduation party and I kept feeling like something was wrong. like, I kept going to the bathroom. I'm like, what's going on? Like, I shouldn't be that far along to where it's affecting my bladder. And so April 30th, I wake up and there's blood. Now, in my mind, I've never had a child before. I think at the time I was like 20. I was like 21. No, I was like 22. Let's say 20, 21, 22. And I was like, okay, let me go stop it, you know? And full disclosure, this is, you know, I'm going to be giving details of things. So if you don't feel comfortable, I respect it, but I'm just telling my story. But I was like, okay, let me take care of this. And I was like, I'm going to fight it. I'm fine. I just need to eat. I hadn't been eating enough. Like, I felt like I wasn't eating how I should have been. But if you've ever been pregnant, if you've ever experienced pregnancy, you know when you have a craving, all you want is that craving. Now I know. I wanted chicken. I was only pregnant for a week and I craved anything and everything chicken. If it did not have chicken in it, I didn't want it. I could not eat it. I felt sick if I tried to eat something and it did not have chicken in it. And so I'm like, okay, I need to fight this. I'm going to go to the store, get some snacks and stuff before I go into work, and I'm good. So I leave early, go to the store, get to work on time. A couple hours go by, if that, and I go to the bathroom and I notice, okay, well, I'm still bleeding. So I call my mom. We had told our parents, like, I think the same day we found out. And I was like, hey, Mom, yeah, so I'm bleeding. And in my mind, I'm like, she's going to tell me just finish out your day. Because I'm like, yeah, I'm bleeding, but, I have one client left. So, but if you think I should, I can go to the hospital, blah, blah. She's like, yeah, you need to go to the hospital. And I'm like, okay, I just have one more client, but yeah, I'll go now. And she was like, yeah, you need to go now. Like, in a calm voice. So I'm still not really accepting the fact of, like, what's going on. I had called my client to come in early. So she had came in early and I saw her in the hallway and I'm like, I had this, like, puzzled face on my look on my face, I'm sure. And she was like, and I'm like, and I run upstairs and tell my manager, like, hey, can you come in the back? Like, I gotta tell you something. And I tell my manager and I just burst into tears. And I'm like, yeah, I have to go to the hospital. My mom said, because at this point I had told my coworkers and my boss because I had never been pregnant before. And so I'm like, okay, I don't know if I'm going to get sick. Like, I don't want them worried about me. So I need to tell them so they're aware, not thinking I would miscarry. Like, that just wasn't on my radar. And I won't even say I didn't think that I would miscarry. I think once I became pregnant, I understood the hormones and the thoughts of, like, when you're pregnant. As soon as I got pregnant, I started thinking, like, oh my gosh, I'm in control of, like, keeping this kid, raising this kid, protecting this kid. This kid is, like, I'm the first person this kid experiences. Like, oh my goodness, like, it was so much anxiety immediately. And I remember, like, thinking about a miscarriage, but I was like, no, I'm not even going to say it. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to speak it into existence, whatever. And I remember my coworker I had told my coworkers I was pregnant. We go upstairs, whatever. And she's like, that's so weird because last night I had a dream that I was pregnant and that I miscarried. And when she said that, I was like, no, why would she say that? But I'm just like, oh, wow. I was like, that's so crazy. Not thinking anything of it because maybe in the past I would have said something like that, not knowing how crazy a pregnant person's hormones can be. But she told me, okay, go ahead. My manager told me, go ahead, go. I'll figure it out. I'll figure out everything. I'll get your schedule together and don't even worry about it. So I had to go downstairs, get all my stuff. And I'm just like, I feel my heart racing, but I'm trying to stay calm because I still have to walk past my client. I still have to get in the car. I still have to make it to meet my then boyfriend safely. Like, I called him. He's getting me chicken He's out getting me chicken from Right Spot. And I'm like, yeah, he's like, okay, I'll meet you at my aunt's house. Okay, cool. So get to his aunt's house. And by this time, I'm just like, okay, I'm just going through the motions. I'm not really paying attention or aware of what's really going on. And we get in the car. He's driving. We're coming to the hospital. He's on the phone with his brother, and I'm on the phone with my mom. And he's like, yeah, my brother said it's okay. This happened to them, blah, blah, blah. But I'm thinking, like, that's not comforting me because I know that they've experienced loss as well, too. So I'm like, at what part of this are they saying they've experienced? Like, is it the loss or is it the success, like the kids they actually birth and they have or that are living and healthy? It's like when you're pregnant, there's so many things, like anything, someone can say anything in your mind, your hormones can just take you to a whole nother place. And I was like, okay. My mom was like, yeah, I bled a lot with you and I had you and they said you'll be deformed and you have all 5, fingers on each hand and, you have all your toes. And I'm like, okay. So I remember we got to the ER and I'm checking in and they're just giving me the hardest time checking in. I finally get checked in and we're waiting in the waiting room for we probably waited 1 or 2 hours. We probably waited 1 or 2 hours in a waiting room. And in that time frame, I probably went to the restroom at least 15 times. And that's not exaggerating. Like, I had to go. Like, this experience wasn't like, I had never experienced anything like this. I had to go and I was like, okay, all right. And it was just like a reminder. Every time I went, I'm like, okay, this, like, I should be fine. My mom lost a lot of blood. I keep reiterating the stories and the things and everything that everyone has told me thus far. Like, I'm fine. I'm going to fight this. I'm good. And we finally get to the back and, they're running tests. And throughout the course of them running tests and, all the things, I end up going to the bathroom again. I probably went to the bathroom alone another 20 times when we got back there. And so I'm just like, okay, like they keep telling, yeah, you're still early. So it's like trying to find a grain of rice in sand. That quote just kept replaying in my mind. Like they're trying to find a grain of rice in sand. Like, okay, yeah, it's new. So, yeah, I'm good. And I remember we were waiting and it was like an hour or so in between the last time the doctor came in. And I remember the doctor came in. And he brought 2 people with him. I had never seen them. So I'm like, okay. And he brought 2 people with him, and I had never seen these doctors. And he goes, so it looks like you miscarried. And I'm like, okay. Like, they just gave me the information so fast. I was like, okay. And he asked me, he was like, I really can't remember what they said, because when he said that, I was just staring at him. And I remember he said, do you have any questions? And in my head, I'm like, ask him whatever questions you have to ask him before you break down, because you need to figure out whatever there is to figure out. You don't know anything. Your parents aren't here. His parents aren't here. It's just the 2 of you. He doesn't know. I don't know. And I remember hearing my boyfriend go, wow. When they said it, because it was like they said it so fast. But I remember asking, so when can we try again? And he, my ex looked at me like, what? Like everyone's like, well, he's like, you have to go to the doctor, make sure you're fine, you're cleared, your levels have to come down, and make sure you don't have an infection, all the things. So I'm like, okay. And they're like, you'll probably pass naturally. It doesn't look like you'll have to have surgery, but, we'll just have to see all the things. They gave me all the instructions. And so I'm like, okay. The moment they walked out that door, I could not hold it. They walked out the door. My ex said, do you want a hug? Do you want to hug it out? And if you know him, you would know that's just how he was comforting. And I remember just like shaking my head and just bawling in his arms. Just crying. And I remember sitting there like, now what? I just get up, get dressed, walk out of this cold hospital. Like the day this happened was a Tuesday. I'll never forget. It was a Tuesday. It was raining. It was gloomy. And I just have to walk out of this cold hospital with news that as fast as I found out I was pregnant, I'm not pregnant anymore. What? And you quickly think, when it first happened for me, I quickly thought, well, I'm not pregnant. Like, I'm not married and I'm pregnant. Like, this is not how I planned my life to go. Like, it wasn't even that I planned to, do anything. It was just that I planned to be married, then have kids. Like, it was just natural. Like, you get married, you have kids. Like, that's just how my mind was going. But it was like the moment I found out that I had lost something, I wanted it so bad. I wanted it even more. Like, I had finally accepted that, hey, we got ourselves into this. So, this is what it is. And to hear someone say it's gone, that did not sit well with me. At the moment, I was just puzzled. I didn't know how I felt. I didn't know. I just knew all I could do was cry. And repeating, my dad called and was like, Maya, what's going on? And I'm like, I miscarried. And my dad was so happy when he found out. He was like, I wonder what the baby's going to call me. My mom, she just was like, people, they aren't going to be nice, blah, blah, blah. Like, and my dad was like, at least, it's with one guy. You've been with him I'm like, yeah, I've been with him for the longest, whatever. But in that moment, it wasn't even about any of that. Sometimes people don't know what to say when you're going through a loss like that. And I felt so lost. As the days went on, it was just like, how could the day even turn into the next day? I just lost something. Like, how can the sky still be blue? Like, the sky looked like a different blue. The trees, the wind blew different. It was just like, how can Earth still be when I lost something that I felt like my body was supposed to do? My body is supposed to be able to do. How? And at the time, I didn't want to hear anything about God makes no mistakes. Everything happens for a reason. That's not what I wanted to hear. I didn't want to hear any of that. And the moment I heard it, I was just like, how dare you? How dare you tell me that? Like, there had to be a mistake. He may have never made a mistake ever, but today he did. Today he did. No. Why would you prepare me for something just to take it? I did not understand why. I did not understand how. I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything wrong. Some people, they say, oh, you're not supposed to drink coffee when you're pregnant. I didn't drink coffee. No, I wasn't married, but I was with one guy. I was with, my boyfriend. No, he's not my husband, but I was with just one person. we took all the precautions we could after we found out. Like, it was just so many questions ran through my mind. And I ended up going to work I had the next day off because it was Tuesday, so that was Wednesday. I had Wednesday off, and I ended up going back to work Thursday because I'm like, you know what? Nope. I don't want anybody to act weird towards me, and I'm just going to go, and it is what it is, blah, blah, blah. Well, that didn't really help. I went through a phase of just being angry. My coworker at the time was pregnant, was complaining about her pregnancy. And I'm like, you're complaining about being pregnant and I just lost a child? Like, how dare you? How dare you? I remember texting my ex, like, I just want to smash this cake. I just want to smash this cake. And just going through all of these emotions of just feeling like, how? Why? I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything wrong. And it took me a long time. It wasn't until like 2020, the next year, COVID happened. I went into a deep depression. 2019, all those months after that, I just suppressed it. I ignored it. I suppressed it. I didn't face the acknowledgement of losing a child. I still never found out how far along I was. I still never found out any of the details that could have given me closure. I had to find closure for myself. And if you know me, I need closure. So to go through something, to have God have me go through something where I don't even get to have closure, but here I am not even seeking God at all at this time. Like, I wasn't in church. Like, I met my ex at church. We stopped going to church at some point, and then we would watch virtual church, and then we wouldn't. So it was like we would go to church. It was just, everything was up in the air. And I'm like, why are you doing this? You took this away, so what? I can trust you? Because I don't. I don't trust you. I don't want to hear anything about what you meant or what you could do, any of the things. And I had to climb out of it. When I tell you I had to fight for my life, I had to fight for my life to get out of that space. I remember being depressed during COVID and silently crying so my then boyfriend wouldn't hear me. I remember at times he wasn't the most supportive. And I remember at times I wasn't the most vocal. I thought I was talking so much during that time, but I was in my mind. I was in my head. There were so many conversations I had with, whether it was my siblings, him, my ex at the time, my boyfriend. And they were like, you weren't talking. I was so in my head. I thought I was talking out loud. You know how deep of a dark place you have to be in? And some of you may know that dark place. That is a dark place to go to get to have all these people in your life and no one can reach you. No one can reach you and pull you out because they can't even find you. You don't even want to be found. You want to be left alone. And it was nothing but the grace of God that pulled me out of that. It was even thinking about me being in a space where I'm not even acknowledging him. I wasn't doing anything more than, being with my ex, shacking, all the things, but I was not watering my walk with Christ. I wasn't feeding my spirit. I wasn't doing any of those things. I was feeding my flesh that whole time, flesh only. And when I say one day something clicked and I said, you have to fight. You have to fight this. That is the grace of God. I went through moments when I didn't want to wake up. I did not want to wake up. I did not want to wake up. I would say, man, I wish I could just sleep this away. I wish the day would just go by faster. I wish that never happened to me. I wish all the things, and I'm not crying because, of course that was a hard time in my life, but I'm crying because when I think about how good God has been to me, he didn't have to be there for me. And maybe you've never experienced that, but when I say I was in such a dark space, I know that was God that made it click for me one day and say, get up and fight. Get up and fight. You got to fight this. And so I started working out. And at the time, I wasn't even paying attention to what I was doing, but I was like, I got to find a new routine. Because I'm not going to lay here and die. It's not time for me to die. This is an unfortunate event in my life, but this is not my life. And I remember one of the things that helped me was, I remember asking myself, okay, Ma, you want another child, but if you had another child, would you be in this house? If you had another child, would you like the job that you're at? And for me, that was what drove me. Like, no. You gotta fight. You gotta fight. Y'all already were saving. We were saving for houses already. So I'm like, Ma, you gotta start looking for a house. You gotta start looking for a house. We had said we were getting our multi-unit, so we did. I started looking for a house. I had a house saved. And I ended up getting this house. This was the house that I had saved. It was in my save folder for like a year. And the moment I started to move on it, it went pending 3 different times. There's so many testimonies I can give to how God pulled me out, how God constantly was trying to get my attention. It wasn't even about, like, I know that I wanted that child. I know that that's something I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. That's not something that I could have dreamed of happening to me. I did not want that to happen. I don't regret any part of it. I know that God has a reason and a season and a purpose for everything, and that was not my time. God does not want me to experience bringing a life into this world in that way. And I know that today, but when I say he pulled me out of such a dark place. I did not recognize myself. I was working out and I was like, okay, I'm doing this routine. I'm walking. Me and my other best friend are checking in with each other, walking, and still hadn't even told her that I was pregnant, that I miscarried, all the things, because now life is going. And I'm just like, if I say this, then I got to catch them up on all the last years. Life is just going. And I just got so submerged in an event that happened, but it woke me up. It woke me up to see, Maya, what are you doing? Are you happy? Is this the life you want to live? Is this what you want to do for your life? Is this how you want to honor God with your life? Is this, what is this? What are you doing? Are you content with how you're living? Are you content with the job that you have? Are you content with the goals that you've reached, without a child? Asking myself those questions that would push me and propel me forward, which I really felt like that was God also giving me that drive. Like, if this is what I got to give you to get you going, then so be it. These are the questions that I asked myself. I had to pull myself out. I had to ask myself those hard questions. And when it came down to it, I had to say, okay, I need help. I did everything I can on my own. I am seeking God now. I don't know what else to do. I bought my house in 2020 December. I'm seeking God. We're watching, virtual church. We're visiting my home church. We're up and down the highway, this, that, and the third. I'm trying to climb myself out. And I said, okay, I need more. I need more help. And that's when I decided to go to therapy. And once I went to therapy, it was like this veil was uncovered. It was like I could actually see God. I could actually understand him. I could actually, it was like my relationship with him was tangible. It was like, it made sense, finally. It was like when I went to therapy, it was because it's almost like a ball, balled up cords. You got a ball full of cords, okay? You have a ball full of cords and you're trying to get some headphones out. But in order to get the headphones out, you got to unravel that ball. You keep trying to yank the headphones out, and all that's doing is weakening the strength of the headphones. All that's doing is weakening the strength of the headphones. You're still yanking, just yanking, and the headphones aren't coming out until you sit down and say, let me undo this. That's how it was for me when I started going to therapy. And I'm not saying therapy is greater than God, but because I didn't even realize I was struggling with so many other things that were blinding my understanding from who I know today for God to be for me in my life. And to each their own, but Jesus and therapy is the best combination. Like I said, Jesus is he's greater than therapy. But when you need clarity, when naturally as a human, we have our own thoughts, we have our own process of getting through things. When you add in psychological damage and you're trying to understand God for himself, it's very easy for you to make him out to be like humans. He's not human. So therapy helped me to see him in the natural sense, but also in the spiritual sense of God is greater than the situation. This situation changed my life. It changed my life, but it changed it for the better because I'm so stubborn. I know how stubborn I am. I'm probably more stubborn than I think I am. But I'm so stubborn that it would have to take me to touch something hot for me to know that it's hot. You could tell me it's hot all day. You could tell me that blue fire is the hottest fire, but I want to see it for myself. And that's exactly what therapy did for me. That's exactly how I was able to understand God. I was understanding things like never before. I was like, wow, that makes so much sense. So you're telling me this one time at band camp when I was 7 years old is the reason why I'm viewing God like this? That's huge. We can be so lost in our way of thinking. We can be so lost in what we've lost. We could be so lost in a moment in time that God is just using that as a stepping stone. God is using that for his bigger picture. God is using it for his bigger picture, and we don't even take time to see the bigger picture. At the time, I could not see the bigger picture, but today I can. Today I can. I don't have a kid to worry about. I know I'm going to see that kid in heaven. I know that I don't have to worry about so many different things because God said, you going the wrong way. And even though this is going to suck for you, this is going to be so hard. And I'm not saying that all miscarriages are because of this, but for my specific story, I know that God wanted to get the glory out of my life, and he had to take me on a detour. He said, you know what? And I'm a firm believer in God does not punish us. He loves us so much. But we have to pay for consequences of our own actions at some point. If I would have waited till marriage to sleep with him, I wouldn't be dealing with some of the things that I had to deal with. And I'm not saying because if I would have gotten married that I wouldn't have experienced a miscarriage, because God will make his will be done no matter what. But my point is, I was prematurely trying to rush into things that God did not have for me just yet. And I felt like that's what God was trying to show me personally, Maya. That's what he was trying to show me. It's not your time yet. This isn't for you yet. This is not what I have for you. I have greater for you. I have more for you. This is aiding into generational curses that I want you to break. I don't want you to feed into this. So for me, that's what matters most. That is how I was able to come out of the darkest time of my life. And I'm not saying that as cliche. I know sometimes people, you hear therapy, go to therapy and it's cliche. You hear this, go to Jesus, and that may be cliche for you. But I had to figure out what Maya needed. I had to figure out what Maya needed. And once I figured out what I needed, I was able to say, okay, God, now I'm ready for you. I think I get it now. That stove is hot, and don't look down because it's a far drop. I think I get it now. Help me on my journey. Help me on my way. But I think I get it now. And that's all God wants you to do. He wants you to be honest about where you are. He wants you to seek him in the hard times, in the wrong times, in the uncomfortable times. He wants you to take that thought that may be provoking you to do better and run with it. Run with it. Like for me, it was working. I started out working out. And then it was like the next thing led to the next. You have to get yourself out of that rut. A lot of us struggle with anxiety and depression and don't even know it. A lot of us struggle with anxiety and depression and do know it, but we don't do the work to pull ourselves out of it. We have to want things more for ourselves than the person who is trying to help us. God is a God of choices. He gives us choices. We have to make the choice to say, okay, God, I surrender to you. I don't want to be lost anymore. I don't want to be out here anymore. I don't want to be struggling with this anymore. I don't want to be confused about this anymore. He wants you to come to him with all of that, with all of it, with all of it. And I just, it's like even thinking about the story, even though that happened now, 5 years ago or 4 years ago, I would have had a 4-year-old. That situation happened 5 years ago, but I would have had a 4-year-old. I think back on how far God has brought me, and it still brings me to tears. It's not me dwelling on what could have been. I understand that. I have peace knowing that God made my story. God is the creator of my story. So I'm not dwelling on what was lost. I don't have to dwell there anymore. And I pray to never have to experience that in the future. And I pray against anybody who may be experiencing that now, whether you're married, unmarried, whatever your story is. Miscarriage is such a hard thing to go through. Loss is such a hard thing to go through. Whether you lost your dad, you lost a child, you lost your parent, you lost a sibling, you lost an aunt, uncle, cousin, a pet even. God does not want you to go through that alone. It's up to us to dissect it and say, God, where's the glory in this? I got to find the glory in this, because if I don't find the glory in this, I'm going to be lost. And I can't be lost. I can't be lost because you found me. You already found me. I don't want to be lost again. And that is the thing that we have to think about. So, thank you for tuning in to the Gray Area Podcast. I pray that this blesses you. I pray that you got something out of this. I pray that through my testimony, through my vulnerability, that it encourages you to seek God. Tell your testimony, share it. Share it. We have so many outlets for social media. It's time to share the testimonies. We have so much access to potentially blessing others so publicly. It needs to be done. It needs to be done. But I pray against any attack of the enemy on our bodies, on the women's systems. I pray against anything that the enemy meant for evil and is trying to make you think that God did not mean it for good. God means everything for good. He loves you so much. He would never do anything to hurt you. He would never do anything to hurt you. And even if it hurts you, sometimes it's not even necessarily from a consequence that we did. Maybe someone else is paying for something. Maybe it's somewhere in our bloodline. Someone didn't take care of something way back when, and we just so happened to experience the insignificance of the thing. But it's not a punishment. God does not punish you. God loves you. God loves you. And I know I didn't give scripture today, but I pray that you would seek God on whatever it is that you're lost about, that you're confused about, that you feel like the enemy is tormenting you about. I pray that you seek God about it. I pray that you take it to Jesus. I pray that you trust him with it. I pray that you trust him with it. He's not human. He does not experience emotions how we experience them. He does not react the way we react. He understands on a whole other level. He's the judge of judges. So he's the ultimate judge. But he loves you. He will love you through everything, every pain, every trial, every insignificant thing that's ever happened in your life, even if it's not losing something. Maybe it was just inconveniencing you. Maybe it was something that you thought you would have had or could have had or should have. and you feel like you should have it now, and God is saying, wait for it. He's still good. He's still good. So seek him. Okay? I pray that this blesses you. I pray that you just continue to walk in the light. Walk to the light. I believe, my best friend's sister said this. I believe it was either she said this and she was saying that her dad said this, but if there's a dark area, if there's a gray area, then that means it's a shadow. So there's light somewhere. There's light somewhere. If there's a dark place, if there's a light place, somewhere there's a shadow, there means there's light on the other side of it. There's light. So I pray you go into this week knowing that God wants you in the light. You can still experience the light. Even though it's insignificant, it's not insignificant. It's not inconvenient for God. He knows all and he sees all. Take it to Jesus. Thank you for tuning in to the Gray Area Podcast. And I pray this blesses you and you come back to listen for more. Have a great week.